What's up? What's up? It's time for Done Way Past Funny with your host, G.D. Fenderson. Join us as we take a look back at the early works of seasoned comedians before they were seasoned with this week's guest, Matt Nappo. It's time to get down and get dope with Done Way Past Funny. Hi, I'm G.D. Fenderson, certified forensic humorist and host of Done Way Past Funny. Thank you for joining us as we continue our interview with the Mind Dog, Matt Nappo. Enjoy. If you don't mind me asking, what happened to your son?
He overdosed. He overdosed on heroin. No, I don't mind you asking at all. My son had he had battles with heroin several times. He got straight a bunch of times and was on the road to recovery a bunch of times. He was well versed in the dangers, and he basically was like a walking pharmacologist. He could tell you anything about any drug, chemical makeup, and all that stuff. He was well aware of the dangers. I think he got some stuff that had fentanyl mixed in it. Basically, it was self-destructive his whole life. He had tough relationships with his mother, and I definitely failed him, I think, in getting divorced at a really crucial time in his life, and I don't think he ever got over that. But at the end of the day, um, he had been straight, cleaned up, went to rehab, been straight for about 4 or 5 months, and then was about to collect the settlement. The day he went to sign an agreement for a lawsuit that he had that was going to put him in the business and set him up for life, and him and his girl were going to get married. The day he would borrowed my van to go to the lawyer to sign the papers, and on the way back got high. It crashed my van while he was overdosing. It crossed the street from where I worked at the time, and I didn't know the police were out there. I'm talking to the CEO, and behind me, he's seeing police getting a guy out of a van, breaking a window, giving him a Narcan, and all that kind of stuff. And I was oblivious to this whole fact. Then he ended up. The cops called me and said he had overdosed and he was going to be arrested. He was in a hospital, and they were going to take him to jail. And basically, I said, "No, I think he needs to go to jail. I think this is, he needs to experience this night in jail." They didn't bring him to jail; they let him go, and ended up going to a motel and basically doing too much and overdosing. So that's the story in a nutshell. So it's one of those things. You lose a kid, you never get over that. Um, you know what? It was his life. Um, and he lived it on his terms. He was well aware of the dangers. So there's nothing you could do to people who are dealing with that stuff. There's nothing you can do to change the outcome of that. There's nothing. There's no right words, no wrong words. It is what it is. People live their own lives. They make their own choices. Even kids, even if it was an adolescent, it would be the same thing. There's nothing you can do to change the outcome. I believe, at least that's my belief. I believe that no matter what, had I been dead or had his mother had been dead years before, it still would have ended up the same way for him. It was the road he was on. It was the life he chose. He good ride. He had a good ride. He had a wild life and experienced some crazy things, but you pay your prices. That's why I talk about I have led a similar life, but I didn't die. Somehow, it wasn't in the cards for me. Happened.
Now, where was your? Was that the only kid you had? I was wondering where he was in the pecking order.
I have two stepchildren, a stepson and a stepdaughter,
Okay, so
both younger than him.
okay, so he was the oldest.
Yes.
Okay. Um, Now I didn't really have a follow up on it. Just that you had mentioned previously that he had passed, and so I
Yeah.
just wanted to.
It's something that I don't like to, not because of me, not because of any of the pain or any of that stuff. It brings people down when you talk about it. People are like get bummed out, and then they want to like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry too. But does no harm to talk about it. It actually does some good to talk about it because a lot of people go through it. A lot of people don't understand. Uh, all and they suffer with the mourning and blame and guilt and all that kind of stuff. And if I can say, yeah, listen, I've gone through it too. I know the experience. I know all of it. And there's no harm in just talking about it. If you can talk about it, if you can bring yourself to actually say the words, it can be very freeing and very, I don't know, add to the
Yeah,
forgiveness part.
I've never lost a child, and when I talk about my siblings and stuff, and my mother, I've been surrounded by death. I think the only thing I haven't experienced is the loss of a child in my own life. Although technically I have been declared dead twice, I just wouldn't stay dead twice. Third time's a charm. No, no,
Yeah, yeah.
but
Eventually it'll stick.
yeah, I'm a failure. My comedy career, everything, just can't do anything right. It just like I keep trying and trying.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But if I talk about death on stage, sometimes people go like, "Oh," I'll say, and I'll go, "Wait, you didn't kill my mother, did you? Did you? Did you?
Maybe.
Did you?" So I said, "Don't be sorry." I said, "You didn't know her. You don't know if the world is better off without her or not. You have no idea. Let me tell my story. Then you
Yeah,
can tell me." I said,
yeah,
"When you
yeah.
finish laughing when you finish laughing, then you can tell me if it was worth it." You know.
Yeah, death is part of life. It's all around us. And my very first television show was Death and Dying, and it's ironic because I, you know, most of the people who were involved in that program are dead, and I remember uh, one of the big questions one of the big focuses of that, like ways to die and how people die, and it's not death. The conclusion is it's not death that frightens us, it's dying that frightens us. Death is you never know what's there, but it's like birth is trauma, and then you're alive, and that's hard. Death is the easy part, but the dying, you think about ways to die, and there's no good way to die. People talk about dying in your sleep. How do you know that that's a good way? Because nobody's ever watching them. Probably my guess is, or somebody who's sleeping and dies in their sleep, you don't see them going, "Ah!" right? It's gonna be that's the fear is it's gonna be awful on the way out, as awful as it was on the way in, but you don't remember that because you blocked that out of your memory because it was so traumatic. It's gonna be that rough on the way out. But I think afterwards it's gonna be okay. Nobody's ever complained.
Not yet. That no, but we could be on the other side. There's a whole list of people. Like there's an HR department on the other side. So it's like, okay, all right.
It would suck if death is really sucks, but I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean,
My when I got my first colonoscopy, uh, uh, that
Squishy is.
when I got my first colonoscopy, I they put me under. And I didn't want to be put under, to be honest. I wanted to stay awake because it's the only chance I'm going to get to see my insides while I'm still alive. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to see. I want to see. I want to see what they saw. Because they could say, "Well, we'll show you the tape." I said, "I don't know that's the tape. I don't know whose rectum that is." Yeah, I wouldn't know. I couldn't tell yours from mine from the tape. But if I'm live and I'm watching it, then I know it's mine. I get so. But they said, "No, you have to go under." And so uh just so as they're putting me under, they lift my gown and I could hear the laughter. And that was the last thing I heard before I went under. And I thought to myself, I could die to the sound of laughter because it made me feel good. And that's so I don't want to die on stage.
I
But
do.
I don't want to die on stage to that. I mean, I don't mind dying to the sound of laughter. Now, what I did was, because I figured they've seen lots of asses. It's like one ass is like, oh, really, except for the skin tone. Once you get on the inside, they're probably almost all the same. Once you get through the doors, once you get to the pearly gates, it's all heaven. No, but so I had a sticker on my butt, and so when they took the gown back to reveal the entrance, the sticker said, "You break it, you buy it." And so that's what the doctors and everybody saw just as I was going under, and I heard the sound of laughter, and I said, and I my last thought was, if I die, this is how I want to go, to the sound of laughter.
Cool.
And when I came back, when they woke me up, the nurse whispered in my ear, and she says, "It was already cracked."
Good for her. She should go to the open mic.
Yeah, yeah. There's you go. She could do a 1 hour special based on that. No,
Uh,
now, unless I'm mistaken, unless I misheard you, I think I heard you say that you interviewed a comedian who had been doing comedy for 20 years and was still doing open mics.
yeah, I didn't interview him. He was part of a group in Facebook who was talking about he'd been doing. Yeah, he's been in comedy for 20 years. He did 3 open mic nights that week. And he was still doing like 3 to 5 minutes in them. And it was like,
Can you tell me the town that he's from?
I think he's in New York
Oh,
or
okay. So that's
near
the
New
same
York.
guy. So there was a guy I interviewed, and he'd been doing comedy for 20 years, and I was under the impression that he was further along, and after 20 years, and he kept saying, "Well, I'm more of a sketch comedy guy, improv, improv, improv." So I didn't think much of stand up, and not I didn't think much of stand up, but I didn't think he was doing stand up. That he was just into the improv. But he kept talking about open mics, open mics, open mics. I'm waiting for him to talk about shows, shows, and shows, and it's like, no, it's like you got to be doing more than 20 years.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd have to rethink.
No, I don't like to crush somebody's dream, but let's face it, if you're working hard, if you're seriously working at it and you're not advancing after, even if 10 years, if you haven't seen any progress, you haven't seen the bar move at all, you have to start questioning yourself like, why am I doing this? I'm not growing as an artist. And I got to think you're doing something wrong if you're not growing as an artist. If you're not getting better, really working hard at what you do, there's something you're practicing the wrong things. You're doing the wrong things. I mean, there's no two ways about it. Because in any situation, human beings become better at what they do if they keep doing it.
Yeah, yeah, that's supposed to be. It was a that's supposed to be the rule of thumb. Uh, of course, we've been fed a lot of shit in our lives too. So he does
Right.
like, but practice makes perfect. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice,
Yeah.
practice.
Yeah.
Was it something you do something with 10,000 times to?
10,000 hours of pure practice make to master. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. It's like, yeah, well, what if you were Mozart and you actually only needed the first hour? I said, no.
Yeah, there is prodigy. I believe that. I believe that wholeheartedly. But I think if you are working hard at your craft and not improving, you're not working smart. Somebody gave you some really bad methodology because again, I mean, it's really hard not to improve, even if you have no talent. If you do it long enough, you will get competent at it. Nobody's saying you will be. uh, the different levels of where people go and how they define success.
Yeah,
But competence is a whole other thing. Competence can be gained, and through enough work and discipline, or lack. Even I'm not a disciplined person at all, but because I've been doing it so long, people rehire me, and that's the when you know that somebody who has paid for your performance is willing to pay again, I think you can consider yourself competent. You at least fooled them in our imposter syndrome minds of creators. You fooled them enough that they want to pay you money again. You've demonstrating competence. I
yeah.
think.
Or if they want their friends to pay money to see you,
Right.
because sometimes people will they don't want to admit that they were wrong, and so they'll do something against, like, yeah, yeah. They uh, there was a TV show, I think it was called Brain Games, and one of my favorite episodes is where they have people. they would show men and women, like they would show them a picture, like two pictures, and say like okay, they'd say like show a man a picture of a blonde and a brunette and say which one's more attractive, and he go like the blonde, and they go okay, and then they take the blonde picture and set it aside, and they'll hold the brunette and goes, so why did you think she was more attractive? And they didn't, and they were showing how all these guys, instead of going, no, I picked the blonde, they would justify the brunette, even though they
Right.
had picked the blonde.
Right.
It was like it was easier for them to just go and say, well, I think the brunette's eyes are blah 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 blah, than to say, wait a minute, no, I thought the other one was more attractive.
Interesting.
And that was one of my favorite episodes to watch this over and over again, how they kept switching the pictures. And it was men and women, but mostly men. You switch one woman for another, and they just said, okay, well, and they would justify why they thought the one they didn't pick was the more attractive one.
That's so weird.
Yeah, and that's that, and I knew eventually they were going to run out of things they could do with the brain, and then they just go to trash, and they did. But that was one of my favorite episodes, and when it was when people find out they're wrong about something, how hard it is to get them to change their minds.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, well, I'm going to run this the other clip. Now, the other clip I have is set up so that the first clip I had, your mic was muted. Nobody could hear us.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, the second clip is a little bit longer, and they would be able to hear us.
All
So,
right.
anytime you want me to pause and you want to explain something, you can.
All
Honestly,
right.
I can't remember what this clip is now because I thought the one I showed you was the one I was talking about, and it's not. And I was
Yeah.
totally confused. I was going, I don't remember. Oh, okay. And the thing is, they're not. It's not labeled. It just because it's coming off of my computer, so
Right.
it's just identifying it as me.
All right.
So we'll find out what the clip is, and anytime you want to say something or have me pause to explain it, it's cool.
All right. I look forward to being surprised.
Surprise, yeah. But it is you. It is you.
Okay.
Okay.
Can we move on from that? Now, this, what I'm showing for the people on the radio side, again, I'm back to this image covering my ugly face right now with a picture of my ugly face. This is from the Garden Grill, Friday night, um, acoustic gig, just me and Mikey. And well, just to start out with, it's kind of a tough thing for somebody to admit. Friday was a very long day for me. I'm hedging talking about this. Wow, look at me. And look, coffee floating here. Um, Friday was a very long day. The day started for me around 5 a.m. working. And then I did a show, and then I had more work to do, and I had two shoots, one for Tasting New York, and then another one that was a commercial for a restaurant. Look at my hands going. This is kind of cool. I'm keeping the picture up here for a moment. And so it was a busy day, and I had a gig, an early gig that night, and did not have time in between the last restaurant shoot, which was very hot in the kitchen and sweaty, and did not have time to go home and take a shower before the gig. A little bit unkempt and a little bit raw. I stunk. I needed a shower, and I knew that. But it was only an acoustic gig, and it was just me and Mikey, and nobody was going to get close to me. And that was kind of cool. Although this idea in the back of my head now that I need a shower was guaranteeing. Look at I'm loving the way the hands go around the picture like this. Was guaranteeing that at least in my mind, it would only get worse through the night, and it did. And we were playing along, and I chomped down a couple of edibles, and it was hot in there like it always is, and room was kind of packed and people dancing, and then so I could smell myself after every song. I was sweating, and I could smell myself getting worse as the night goes on. And then this lady here pictured in this video. She got up and she started dancing with people. Generally, give us a little credit here. People don't generally get up and dance a full room dancing to just an acoustic guitar and a singer or two singers. But we had them up dancing for 3.5 hours. Anyway, she got up and she was dancing, and we were playing Love Song with my song, Love Song, which is kind of, if you know the song, kind of dirty. Dirty in a, kind of dirty in a innocent television broadcast friendly kind of way. In other words, it doesn't say any profanity. Profanities are all bleeped out. It is suggestive, dirty. And we're playing that song. And Mikey sings it. And this girl was dancing close to Mike. And then I started in with the joke stuff that I do in there, like, cause it's a, do you want to get naked in the back of my truck? And then he goes to saying, come on, baby, let's, and I stop him, and then I break in with some really corn shtick jokes. Hey, I hear you got a little one, your truck that is. You park it in the rear. You look like the kind of guy who likes to park it in the rear. Those kind of jokes. And she noticed me then and wanted to come over and dance with me. Now, in the back of my mind, and not just in the back of my mind, in my nose and in my brain, I stink like a garbage dump on fire. And I'm looking at her like, you don't want to dance with me. You don't want to come near me. You don't want to get close to me. And she's getting closer and closer, and I'm like using the guitar to kind of keep her away. Like, you don't want to, you don't want to get near me. But she was insisting. She was getting closer and closer. And then she comes over and she's putting her head on my chest. And I'm like, man, how are you not passing out? I'm ready to pass out from my own stink. And it's my stink. And she was dealing with it. And she was having fun. And you can see the big smile on her face in this picture. She's enjoying it, enjoying my stink. So the song ends, and we go into the next song. And I notice to my left that her husband is up and he is not happy. He's an angry man. And he looks like Charles Manson, but a bigger, much bigger, tougher, harder version of Charles Manson. And he's yelling at her loudly. And he's got a fist and a finger in the face and yelling at her. And she's just looking like bored, like she's been through this before. But obviously, this guy is trying to tell her how to behave. He's not happy with her behavior in public, but he's in public, and it looks like we're gonna have to. It's gonna be a legality in a moment. Like he's gonna hit her, and we're gonna have to do something, and cops are gonna have to be called. All that kind of stuff. This is all going through my mind, and he's getting louder and more aggressive, more agitated, and she's just sitting there bored with it. I'm gonna take the picture down now. Like, I think I can take the picture down. Can I take the picture down? Yes, I can take the picture down. Anyway, so finally he says something to her, and it looks like he's gonna hit her. And then she just turned. She finally got tired of being bored, and she just turned to him and said something, and he broke out hysterical laughing. And Mikey looked at me. I said, "I know exactly what she said to him." She said, "I'm not gonna have sex with that guy." Anyway, he stinks. That's what she said to him. And that's what made him laugh like that. And I don't blame her for saying that. But then she came back over by me for the next song, which was the end of the night. But and my brother, I told my brother the story. He said, "No, you're imagining that stuff. She wasn't saying you stink." I was like, "No, I think she said I stink." I wouldn't blame her. Listen, I this is the first time in my life I've ever gone to a show. I I kind of smell nice. I'm a nice smelling guy. I kind of pride myself on smelling nice. But this night I smelled like a garbage dump on fire. Anyway, so I guess the moral of the story is if an angry husband gets mad at you because he thinks his wife wants to do you, Just assure him that you stink. See, that just comes out of my mouth. I don't pre-think any of that stuff. I just, oh yeah, this happened last night.
Now, how long have you and your wife been together?
15 years.
15 years. So this is your second marriage.
Yes.
Um, did you have to change colognes after your second marriage? Did she decided like I don't like your old cologne, get your new cologne? Here's the question. See, I do a bit about compromise in a marriage, and that I don't compromise. I'm actually just afraid of my wife, and I'm not. I thought I was compromising. Like before we got together, I used Tide, and now we use All. Eventually all of my products have become her products. Like even like now, I don't shave with the Gillette Mach 3. I use a Lady Schick. So at one, so did you? Because you had a previous marriage,
Yes.
and so you had products that you used. Did you continue to use after that marriage end?
Yeah, I don't change.
And so when you get to the new marriage, did the old products have to go away? Or you have new
No,
products
no,
now?
I haven't changed a bit since really high school.
Same detergent, toothbrush. I mean, well,
Yeah,
because the toothpaste, I can't even like because you and I are about the same age in our late 30s.
yeah, yeah,
Really late 30s.
yeah. My
So
my second late 30s. Yeah.
yeah, so like a lot of the products that we grew up with aren't even around anymore. Except for by name, maybe.
Yeah, I'm a very simple guy. So yeah, most of the products that I use have been around my whole life. I mean, listen, being bald, you don't do shampoo, right? I don't
When
do
did you start being bald?
20. Well, start probably 18, but I didn't really do any. I mean, my hair was getting longer but thinner until about 25. Uh, I was married to my first wife, and I was working nights. I was at the time I had a security job, and I was supposed to be at work at 11 p.m. And at 10:30, I started to cut my hair with scissors. I'm gonna, bothering me that's thin, and I started to cut it all off, and I was only halfway finished when I had to go to work. So I put on a baseball cap, half chopped up hair, and then I went to my shift, and at my job, I finished shaving my head and came home bald. My wife was sleeping; she's in bed, and I crawled into bed with her. And she reached over and felt the bald head, and she screamed like, "Ah!" So I've been basically shaving my head since 25, 26 years old.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you started shaving your head around the time that shaving your head wasn't really cool yet.
White guys didn't do it. The
No,
only black guys
except for
did it, and only
skinheads.
black guys could pull it off. Like it wasn't attractive. I was told it was not attractive look for white guys. I
Yeah,
heard that a lot.
I was gonna say because at that time I think maybe skinheads were doing it. I'm
Yeah.
trying to think.
Yes.
Yeah, and because I'm not gonna lie, when I was in my 20s, and when I was in my 20s, late 20s, if I saw a bald headed white guy, I looked for a weapon to defend myself
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I knew there was going to be trouble.
Yeah. No, I got a lot of it. People assume that that kind of stuff all the time, and a lot of people they thought like bald jokes were a way to get fuck with me. To me I didn't care. I mean, I always what I got a hotter wife than you do. I mean, it didn't matter much to me. Plus, I was huge at the time. So that kind of played into it too. I was heavily into weightlifting and all that kind of stuff. I was bulked up, like looked like a steroid head. Though I never used steroids in my life. The bald head and huge. It was kind of intimidating to a lot of people. A lot of I looked like I could be either a skinhead or just an enforcer or a bouncer or something like that, hitman.
Yeah,
Well,
because other than Telly Savalas and Yul Brynner,
those were the
um,
role models when I was
yeah,
a kid.
those are the only. I think those are the only two. Well, actually, there was one other white guy who was bald, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure, like, he was like a B actor. He wasn't, he wasn't like Savalas or
Yeah,
Brenner. He was like a B actor, and you see him, and you go like, oh yeah, is that the third bald guy? And I can't remember his name now.
yeah, Yeah.
And Mr. Clean. But so
Oh, yeah. I got a lot of that too.
so other than that, that was it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you went the radical route, and I say radical because again, it was not a popular choice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And
And it definitely, rocks. Then at that time I was in my 20s. I'm still with the idea of making it big in rock and kind of touring and bands and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't the nobody was doing that who was in bands at that time. I mean, again, white guys. No white
right,
guys were doing it.
right, yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Why is it that black guys can look so much more handsome and more, I don't know, debonair and sophisticated being bald than white guys can? I mean, probably because white guys don't have like the greatest shaped heads.
I, you're asking the wrong one because I it's not that I did do the bald head thing for a while, but I was rebellious. So when people were growing afros, I shaved my head. Oh, and I say people. I mean when black
Yeah,
people,
yeah, yeah.
when
Well,
black
I
people,
have white
yeah,
friends who had afros too. That was
yeah,
weird.
yeah. I had a few. Um, yeah, they usually had like the curly afros.
Right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But when so I was constantly whatever the trend was, I was constantly bucking it. It's like, no, I will not. You're everybody's going afro now. No, then I will have a bald head. Everybody's going shaving their head. Now I'm going to have cornrows or whatever. I was, I just wasn't going to wear what people told me to wear until they hit bell bottoms and baggies.
Wow.
Damn it, they got me. And platform shoes. Damn it. Once they got the platform shoes with the white soles, they had me. That was it. That was it. I didn't want that look to ever change. With the baggies, the baseball shirts, the platform shoes with the white marshmallow soles. That was my niche. I never wanted that fashion to ever change, ever.
Wow.
And once it did, I was like, I'm not giving up. I wore them until, I think it's like, baggies aren't in style anymore. Bell bottom, I was like, okay, then I'm buying the last 12 pair they have on this shelf and I'm going to wear them until they wear out. And that's it.
Yeah.
And then leisure suits. I did love leisure suits. So, hi, I'm GD Fenderson, certified forensic humorist and host of Done Way Past Funny. Thank you for watching our continued interview with the Mind Dog, Matt Nappo, and please come back to watch more of our interview with Matt Nappo. And when you come back to join us, bring a friend.